I'm Shar Pittman, and welcome to episode 10 of the Woman of Purpose podcast. And I'm so excited that you're joining us as we wrap up our session with Brittany Juza on the topic of nutrition and eating disorders. And so, Brittany, we talked a lot about, a lot of things concerning nutrition and diets and food and exercise and all of those things. One of the things I would like to have you do is, can you just wrap up a little bit about this thing of eating disorders?
Yeah, I wanted to highlight with eating disorders not to isolate because isolation, it keeps you in this cycle, because you're isolated, you're alone, you're doing it. So for me, it was like binge eating and then feeling guilty and shameful about that. And since I was all alone, for what I thought, I had nowhere to turn. So then I would just turn back to it over and over again. And just like a little testimony, you probably don't even know this. There was a time when I used to live in Rice Lake and I was caught in one of those cycles really bad, where like hours of this and foraging the kitchen. It didn't matter what I was eating at that point, and you had came over right in the middle of it sort of, and you brought me flowers. And so I don't know if you ever knew that, but you broke that cycle,
Wow.
And so, yeah, I just want to encourage people not to isolate, that you're definitely not alone.
Yeah.
Like you can say that, people can tell you that, and you're like, no, I'm the only one that's ever struggled with this. I'm the only one that deals with it. And it's just absolutely not the truth. I think you'd be surprised how many people have dealt with it on some level.
Yeah.
And so just normalizing it and not normally normalizing it in God's kingdom, but just normalizing it in the sense of like, hey, a lot of people struggle with this, like, and it doesn't have to be part of who I am, but I can voice this out. I can reach out, even if I'm not expressing what's going on, you can reach out, but just not to isolate.
Yeah. That's really good. And you talked about the binge eating, and then in the last episode, we talked about the under eating, also the not eating.
Yeah.
And so I think a part of an eating disorder can be just not eating.
Yeah. Yep.
And so even in that too, it's like there's something that's attached to those issues.
Yeah.
And so that's really good to not isolate, to find
almost having
somebody
an accountability partner.
Yes.
Even if you don't express all the details of what's going on, but if you're just like, hey, I've been having a hard time not eating as much, or I haven't had an appetite. That's a really easy way if you're trying not, if you don't feel like expressing everything, if you just say, I haven't had much of an appetite lately, but I know that it's really important that I eat. It might be hard to get that first part out, but even if you just express that, and then someone around you can help bring you nutritious things, that are going to help you eat. So
yeah, that's really, really, really good. So thanks for I wanted to make sure that we ended on that.
Yeah.
And, So Brittany, what are some practical tips on eating healthy and just staying healthy?
Yeah. So something really big for me is we talked about the balance, but within that is eating with others.
Okay.
So I kind of save up my fun meals, if you want to say, for eating with others.
Okay.
And a fun meal doesn't have to be pizza. It doesn't have to be something that has no nutrition, but maybe I'll eat a little bit more basic throughout the week. Like I love eggs and oatmeal. A lot of people wouldn't, but I've ate that every morning for breakfast for the past 12 years, probably, and so throughout the week, I might keep it a little bit more simple, but I love to go to breakfast with my dad.
Okay.
So I'll save that up and be like, it's probably not going to be the most nutritious meal, but I'm going to enjoy that time with my father, and I do enjoy the food.
Yeah.
And so then I keep things a little bit more simple. So if you know that an event is coming up, it doesn't mean that you're restricting before it, but it just means like, hey, I'm going to keep it a little more simple because I'm going to enjoy myself a little bit more on this weekend and keep that balance in my, in the plan. So yeah, eating with others, and I'll save up, like, I shouldn't say save up, but like if I have a birthday party to go to, I'm just like, I know that I'm going to want to have a piece of cake while I'm there. And so it's kind of like deciding ahead of time, like I'm going to eat well throughout the day because I'm going to have a piece of cake tonight. And so I'm going to maintain that balance. Yeah. So it doesn't mean that I couldn't have, pancakes for breakfast and a piece of cake that night. But if I want to keep a good balance, I'll kind of focus on it that way, deciding ahead of time so that when I get to that birthday party, I'm not presented with this choice of like guilt or not guilt. It's like, no, that's not even associated. Right. I made up my mind ahead of time, that I'm going to have a piece of cake and that's going to be great. And kind of by making that decision ahead of time, I don't have this urge to like overconsume, you know what I mean? Because I didn't attach an emotion to it. It's like, I'm going to have a piece of cake tonight. Okay. So then by the time that emotion hits, it's not ruling you. You already made that decision, you know?
Yeah. I like that. It's not ruling you and making the decision beforehand.
Yes. Yep.
So it's like, I've got this party, or I've got this, you know, think of, okay, Thanksgiving, for instance, or a family thing. It's like, okay, no, I know that, you know, this holiday's coming up, or this birthday party's coming up, or this family event, especially in summer. We're in summer here in Wisconsin, and summers, there's a lot of picnics. There's a lot of things that, you know, social gatherings and things like that we do. And so I love how you said, it's like making up your mind, okay, knowing that event's coming up, or that wedding's coming up, or that's coming up. So not to condemn ourselves saying, you know, well, I can't have anything, or I can't eat anything. No, you can. Yeah. But it's to determine that I'm going to make sure that I'm not going to pile everything on, and knowing that I'm just going to watch how I do things throughout the week, because I know I've got this thing coming up, and I'm going to enjoy eating with people. I'm going to enjoy eating with my family. It's not going to control me. I'm not going to carry condemnation. I'm not going to carry shame. I'm going to break all these things off, because I'm not eating because I'm emotional, or because I'm...
So,
you know,
because when you plan ahead for an event, it takes emotions out of it, versus when you're all of a sudden abruptly faced with it. It's like, oh, well, I didn't plan ahead. So you make that decision before the emotions are present. So, for example, we went camping with my family this last weekend. And so ahead of time, I had to plan, like, I know that we're going to have s'mores, and there's this really cool ice cream shop that I really want to go. I wanted to go. It was my idea. You know, I wanted to have an ice cream cone with my family. And so it took a little bit of discipline ahead of time. But first off, we took joy in the discipline. So Matt and I, you know, we picked a bunch of stuff from our garden, or you could have gone to the grocery store, but we prepped salads ahead of time. And we prepped healthy, lean protein ahead of time. So then throughout the day, we whipped out our salads and we enjoyed that and all the nutrition. And so then at night, because at night, I knew I was going to probably have a treat, you know? And so so plan ahead of time before the emotions hit, and prepare, you know, and take joy in that like prepping process, you know, like this is cool that I get to eat well, you know, that I get to fuel my body, and I'm going to feel good doing it, you know, like there's joy in that. And I think once you start embracing the joy of it versus the shame of the opposite, it just opens up a door of freedom in the way that you look at food.
I love how you said that, you choose joy, because we talk about that a lot just in life, you know, in our circumstances, that we really can choose. We can choose to be, you know, angry, mad, or to have joy in it. And if I look at this as a chore, then it's not, it takes all the fun out of it.
It really does.
And so Brittany, you talked about like you and Matt had prepped some salads and stuff like that. It's like, what does food prepping practically look like? How can, because for me, I'm going to be honest, like food prepping sounds like so much work.
Hours of labor.
It's like, oh my gosh, like food prepping is just like, you know, it's almost like a bad word. But really, when you think about it, it makes so much sense. Because like even now, if I make, it's just my husband and I at home, and if I make, you know, say tacos, you know, I'll make a whole bunch of meat because I want it for the next few days, so I don't have to do it again. That's really food prepping.
It really is.
You know, so it's like taking the negative attachment to food prep. And so what does that look like? So it's going back to that joy thing of something. This is something I get to do. This is something that is going to offer me freedom in my choices as I move throughout the week to eat well. So it's something I get to do, not something that I have to do. Whenever I'm like, oh no, I have to food prep. I know exactly what you mean. Like every pan is out and this is there, you know. There's joy in it then, you know, and when I relate it to God's design of like, this is so cool. Like you created these apples for me to provide me nutrients, and it's a sweet treat, you know. That's joyful, you know? So I start to focus on that versus like, I have to prep this to stay skinny. You know, I have to prep this food to stay on my diet. Again, it's all those like negative associations. And so versus when I'm like, wow, it's so cool that God, you created the world with everything that we need, you know, everything we need to heal our bodies. And it sounds like, oh, wow, that's quite the, you know, exaggerated thought every time, but it's really not, you know, when you start to like live that way.
and it becomes easier and easier. So then it's not a chore. It's not something I have to do. It's something I get to do. And then you enjoy the discipline in it. Like, oh, food prep might take me, this much a night or whatever. But, and you'll learn as you do it more and more. You start, getting around people that do it all the time. Yeah. And you share like tips and tricks. And it really becomes a very, very easy thing. Huh. I think less tasking than trying to come up with like food every night. And at the last minute, it's like way easier. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Because I've always said, I'm going to do that. But, I don't do it probably like you do it.
Yeah.
But
it's crushing that convenience mindset too. Like, who told me that food should be readily available at any second throughout the day? Yeah. Like in any fashion I want. Yeah. Like, who told me that? Yeah. That God didn't tell me that, that's for sure. And so it's like, okay, God, how did you design food to be? And like, I think I would like to think back in the day, there was so much gathering around preparing food. It was more about the time together to prepare it and the discipline in that. And I think it really teaches a lot of character, to be honest.
That's interesting. Yeah, that is true because, food is just really, it's a big deal. I remember I had a couple of kids over and to the house and I was giving her a sandwich. The evening when she got there, gave her a sandwich. And as she's eating the sandwich, she's like, so what's for breakfast?
You're like, oh no.
I just thought that was so funny. I'm like, what? Breakfast? What in the world? But food is a thing that we think about. And so food isn't negative and food isn't bad.
Right.
And so I love how we can actually take control of this thing called food and eating, where it's like, it's not going to control me. I'm going to control it. Yep. I'm not going to attach a negative emotion to food. I'm going to learn how to balance it all out. I'm going to learn how to portion things. I don't have to have a plate full of food, but I can have, a good portion size of food. And I can work at prepping my food. Yep. So if I don't do it like, maybe you do it in a day and you prep for the whole week. So maybe if you're a busy mom or, businesswoman and work out of the home, maybe you do, if I'm going to make chicken breast, then maybe I do 10 of them and just do that. And then I have enough for 3 days, have it on hand and stuff like that. So there are some really good and easy practical.
There really are.
Practical ways. And so one of the things, Brittany, we were talking about a little earlier is the importance of drinking water.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I know this is such a, for some, water doesn't even taste good because I hear that a lot. It's just like, I don't like the taste of water, so I'm just going to drink coffee. It's got water in it. Or, I'm going to drink that, lemonade. It's made with water, things like that. But there really is an importance to drinking water. Yeah. And staying hydrated. And just elaborate a little bit on that for me.
I will. I just want to go back to one thing really quick, if you don't mind. A big thing with eating well is like trusting the Lord. So obviously, but it's kind of like this, like, okay, God, do I trust that if I don't turn to food for comfort, do I trust that whatever you've placed inside of me, whatever you said about me, who you say I am, is that enough? Do I trust that that's enough? And I thought back to like preparing food for others. It even goes to that on the turn hand. Do I trust that what God has placed inside of me is enough for these people before the comfort of food? Yeah. And I don't want to, get on a rabbit trail with that, but that came to mind of like trusting God with my nutrition, really like, do I trust that he is enough? Yeah. Like asking myself that, like, do I trust that, if I prep this food and I go to this event, that he's going to be my comfort versus the food that I don't prep, Yeah. And so anyways.
That's really good. Yeah.
Thanks.
That's good. Britt.
Okay. So water intake. Yeah. It's extremely important. I don't even remember the percentage, but they talk about how your body's made up of, I don't know. It's like a ridiculous amount. Like we're basically water, And so we all know that, but yet we like consider water as just like sips, I have a leader in the military and he drinks Mountain Dew, like wakes up and he's proud of it, so it's okay. But he'll wake up at like 4 a.m. and drink a Mountain Dew, and I just just I can't imagine. And our water intake is extremely important. And for one, hydration, headaches, sleep. I'm pretty sure it associates to every function of the body. I would imagine. You know what I mean? So a lot of times you're like, oh, I'm thirsty, so I need water. But it's like it also associates to when I have a headache. I feel bad for Matt sometimes because he might say, I have a headache. And I say, oh, did you drink water? And he goes, my back hurts. And I go, well, did you go for a brisk walk? You know, he doesn't get a lot of sympathy sometimes, but it's really the truth of like checking that. And, so yeah, if you're not sleeping well, it can even go in with that. A lot of people have trouble with, like aches and pains and cramps while they're sleeping. And most of that is like your hydration level. And so as far as numbers, they always say half your body weight in ounces. Okay. And I think that's a good baseline to start at. Okay. You know, so if you weigh 130 pounds, like, you know, drink 75 ounces of water a day or 65 ounces of water a day. But then that doesn't take into account if I went for a walk and I worked all day in the garden or I worked construction or I was sitting at my desk all day. You know, it doesn't take that stuff into account. And so that's like your bare minimum. That's like your bottom dollar. And then for every activity or movement that you add more, if that makes sense. Yep. And just start slow. If you're not used to drinking water, just start with a little goal, you know, and don't have any guilt or shame with it. But hey, I'm going to, instead of 2 pops and 1 water, I'm going to try 2 waters and 1 pop, you know, and just start slow because I know that it doesn't taste great to a lot of people starting out. But that is something that comes with time. And I promise that, you know, it's like, that you're not different. You're not unique. A lot of people say, I just don't like water. And I say, I know that it seems like you never will enjoy water, but you really get to a spot where you do. And just give yourself patience in that. And don't get discouraged if it's not coming in a week, you know, or in a few weeks, if you're still like, water's not my favorite. And just look for, like, we do a lot of lemon water. And
a lot of what?
Lemon water.
Oh, it's lemon water. Yeah. Sure.
Or we'll make homemade lemonade and we'll sweeten it with honey. Okay. You know, and or strawberry lemonade and like homemade. So there are ways. Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. So you can take water and add lime to it or add, you know, sometimes you can get those infusers where you can put, you know, cucumber and you know, lemon and lime and oranges and stuff like that in the infuser to make the water taste a little bit.
And what I would say is stay away from like the natural or unnatural sweeteners or the artificial. Okay. Because then you're just going to continue to crave those and you're not actually going to like gain a respect and a liking for the taste of water versus if you use natural infusers, lemons and oranges and strawberries and all those other things, your body is getting the nutrients then. And so it's not creating any negative sense with that water versus like something artificial being put in there.
What would be considered artificial?
Just like those drink pouches, the powders, you know, a lot of those have artificial sweeteners in there. Sure. So just watch for that. It doesn't mean you can't ever have them, but the more that you indulge in those, then the more your body just craves that artificial sweetener.
So you can have those, but don't have those as water.
Yes. Don't let them, you know, work up to it. But that shouldn't be your end goal.
Gotcha.
You know?
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, that's really good because water is super important. And for me, I'm not, you know, I'm more of a water person now than I ever have been. But what for me, I have a cup like this or another kind of cup, but I like ice in my water. I know that's probably not ideal, but that's how I'll consume it. And I have no problem drinking it, but it has to be really cold. And I'm really just, I really do try to just have lots, but cold. Yep. You know, and so do whatever you got to do.
Yeah, you'll find little ways that work for you. And
they get it to work for you. So this has been really, really good. There's so many things that I can keep talking about, but I think the things I want to really highlight is that nutrition is not bad. Right. Food is not evil. Right. That when we attach an emotion to it, it can really cause a whole bunch of unnecessary issues with food that brings shame, guilt, and condemnation. And will cause us to abuse food or not consume what we need to consume to actually have our bodies well. Thinking about the eating disorder and thinking about somebody that is an anorexic, when they see themselves as overweight. Yeah. Even though they are, you know, underweight, grossly underweight. Yeah. And so that really is so the undereating is really an important thing to recognize too. And so if I said this in the previous podcast, that if you are struggling in those areas, then I want to encourage you guys to reach out and share that with somebody so that so that you can live life fulfilling your purpose, because there's so many things that can try to steal our purpose, and not eating correctly, under eating can consume us to a degree that we don't fulfill our purpose and don't live in our purpose. And so I want to encourage you ladies that, I guess, somebody said this the other day, that 2% of the people that listen to this podcast are men. So if you're a man out there, you're listening to
the
this,
truth,
and you're, regardless of, the gender, but it's an issue. And so reach out, like you said, don't isolate if you're struggling with an eating disorder. Find somebody, drop a message, and we'll get some good resources to you. So, but we talked about balance and portion sizes. We talked about dieting is a negative. It's negative. It restricts you, and nutrition actually is fueling your body. It frees you up to be able to enjoy food, not in a bad way, but enjoy it in a good way. I loved how you said eating with people is just so much fun. It makes it fun. And so that's another good thing. And then we talked about how water is really good for you. But what I want to do, Brittany, is, I know there's going to be a lot of questions, because you talked about, eating healthy and protein and carbs and things like that. But I know a while ago you had helped me in that area of what I didn't even know really what good carbs looked like. Right. And so you gave me this list of good carbs. You gave me this list of good proteins, and I was shocked at what's good carbs, So we talked at the break, and you said that you would make available to people that wanted to a link to a PDF that would give them good options. They would give them a list of good veggies, of good fruit, of good foods, that a list of those things that they can take and they can apply.
Definitely. And as I'll provide those sources, and I just encourage, as you approach these sources, you almost have to come in it with a clean slate. First off, not a diet, like, hey, this isn't a diet that she has provided for me. And then you have to kind of erase the world, as we should do anyways, like when we try to partner, when we seek answers from men, we get answers from men, and those are empty and false. And they're going to tell you that a sweet potato is bad, that you can't have carbs. And so I just ask that you approach this with okay, this is real, whole food, something God designed. And so just approach what I provide in that, with that mindset and in excitement too, that wow, this isn't just the latest trend. This isn't, a diet. This isn't something I have to start tomorrow. This is something that I can joyfully choose to start adding into my daily lifestyle.
Yeah, I love that. Adding it too. It's like taking things. I think what sometimes, like for me, what I've done is just I'm gonna, do this, and then we, eradicate everything else, and then we start doing it, and then we're like, oh my gosh, this is awful, what did I do? But if you just start adding things here and there, where it's just little by little. Start with breakfast, I guarantee you, I bet you, there's a lot of people listening, a lot of women listening that don't even eat breakfast. That's
they're
like, well, you don't have time for breakfast. And so even in that, if you just said, I've learned this thing of overnight oatmeal. Where you do it, I do sometimes I do up to 5 in those little mason jars, and I just add oat milk or almond milk or whatever, and then the oatmeal, and then the fruits and nuts and stuff like that, grab them in the morning, and out the door I go. You can heat them up in the microwave, or you can eat them cold, whatever. But even in that, because I'm not a real breakfast eater, I like my coffee, and then I get busy, and then I head out the door, and then I'm like, oh, it's lunchtime. And so even in little things like that, it's really, the bananas and the fruit and things like that we can really do. But starting with, maybe it's not breakfast, maybe it's supper, where it's okay, so for supper, I'm going to have.
Good choices breed good choices. So if you're not a breakfast person initially, by making a good lunch, that's going to breed a good choice for a breakfast in the following days. You know what I mean? Or weeks or whatever it is. But it's the more you eat now a nutritious lunch, that's going to provoke a nutritious dinner, and it's just going to create better habits as you go about, So
it's being patient with yourself. It's be patient, but it's like understanding the truth
Yep.
of what nutrition really is.
Yes.
Understanding the truth of what food really is, and understanding the truth that you can have that s'more, or you can have that blizzard, or you can. But it's like, I hope that this empowers you to be able to look at food and nutrition in a different light. And so, anyways, so we're going to have that link for the food, the choices of the carbs and the protein and all that.
Yep.
So it's going to be a list of things. It's going to be a link to a PDF. And then we are going to leave that link there. And my website it's womanofpurpose.net. So we'll have some information on that as well. So I just want to thank you for joining us on this episode of Woman of Purpose. And I hope that there's some things that we shared with you, that Brittany shared with you, that will help empower you to be able to take nutrition and food to a whole nother level in your life. So thank you for joining us. Have a good day.